This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is Monday, August 15th, and we have an exciting week of shows lined up. A lot of on-the-water action that concluded this past week, as well as a preview for some action that will go down this week. Pretty much focused around smallmouth. It seems like the last 7-8 years, it's just been smallmouth in the summer. Understandably so. Who doesn't like to be up there in the 70-degree weather? We saw 102 pounds, 9 ounces from Jay Shakurit in the Elite Series a couple weeks ago, setting an all-time record for 20 smallmouth bass. And then Dakota Ebear goes out in the most recent BPT on Cayuga and catches a 710. Thing was an absolute freak show. I think is the biggest smallmouth in FLW, and no, not FLW. I think maybe there was an 8-pounder weighed in, but a biggest smallmouth in BPT history. So entering the record books with that. So a guy who knows a lot more stats than I do about all that stuff is Joe Pogger. We will have him on. He is the head media guru at MLF. He will set the table for the pro circuit title that is going down. I think it starts tomorrow on the St. Lawrence River. We saw a lot of the events going out of Clayton, which is really close to the lake. I think it's a haul. I don't think they're allowed to go into the lake for this one. I think it's a long way away from the lake, so we will see more river action in the title. 50 anglers in that event. We will get into the who, what, where, when, and why with Joe on that. Also, kind of clear the murky waters as far as who's in, who's out, who's got a chance to be in, who's got a chance to be out, and who's got a choice of where they want to go when next year. Still some stuff to be determined. There's one more stage left in September on Mille Lacs. The BPT goes there. That is probably the one that I have been anticipating the most watching outside of the Cayuga event, which did not disappoint. Dustin Connell gets another win, 96 pounds, 12 ounces on the final day. Jacob Wheeler finishes second with 80 pounds, 9 ounces, followed by Andy Montgomery. Good to see Big Show. Big Show with his best performance in the BPT, a fourth place showing, and then Zach Burge, who's everywhere these days, he finished fifth, and then probably one of the, I'd put him behind Lucas, and I would have to put him behind Lucas and Neil right now as far as hottest angler multiple across all circuits. That would be Dakota Ebear. Insane there. Another top 5 finish for Dakota Ebear, and then Justin Lucas in 7th. But what we did find out heading into the final BPT event is that Jacob Wheeler has a 65-point lead over Jordan Lee, and it's been a minute since he's finished below 65th. So all he has to do is make the cut, make the top 20 cut in his round at the next event, and it's a cakewalk for another Angler of the Year title for Jacob Wheeler. Speaking of titles, there's a title that was won on Lake Hartwell for some very happy high school anglers. A little over 300 boats for 3 days on Lake Hartwell. And Bryce Motor and Reese Keeney won that tournament. Now, there's a awesome quote in there. You think that's like spotted bass, schooling fish, and all that. These kids went power fishing. And there's certain things in life. I just remember you have certain bites in life, certain tournaments, certain memories. For me, it was a guy named Bob Evans who let me fish a youth tournament with him that I signed up for through the Cassin Kids event. And I'll always remember I caught 3 fish on a buzz bait when I was 12 years old, and I was using Gorilla Braid. That's how long ago it was, and a Browning Vector rod. I'll never forget that. But I vividly remember those bites on Lake Shelbyville, and we had a top 10 in that youth event. And I went back, I actually just found a piece of paper that had the results on it. And in my mind, it was like a huge, massive tournament. There were like 38 boats in it. And we finished in the top 10. But so these kids have won the national championship. There's a quote in here. They caught a couple different 5-pounders on a horny toad on topwater. I gotta find this quote in here. It was about, how did I not? I've got 7 pages open up. Basically, he said that when they hit the 5 and 6 pounders hit the horny toad, it was like dropping a bowling ball from a tree. That's bites that are seared into. That's bites that'll be seared into your memory for forever. So, all right, Joe Pogger, we're going to get him on now. Then I've got Tom Redington in the second half of the show. Had some really good conversations with Tom over the past year. Really interesting guy. He's been he's fished the Opens. He fishes the pro circuit. He's rolled with Scott Martin and that crew in the past. He's guided on Lake Fork. Has had big non-endemic sponsors. So really interested to get to Tom Redington in the second. And then I am going to, I might even get into this with Tom. I discovered something that I had no idea of. And it's the craziest world that I've ever, and I actually saw like a formal press release from it. It's called the KFL, the Kayak Fishing League. And I don't dabble in the kayak world here because there's a lot of drama. And actually the reason I heard about this was because of drama. But they have like a league with all these teams with logos. They play games. They drop players. They add players. They have an all-star game that's voted on. They call them games. They have home matches versus away matches, 9-week series. They have like north, south, east, west divisions, and they go up against each other for total inches, and then it's all live streamed on the internet. It's crazy. I want to get into that at the end because I was very interested in that. But let's get to Mr. Opager. You're up in Minnesota, right?
I am, yeah.
You work from home mostly?
Mostly, yeah. I travel to most of the BPT and a lot of the pro circuit events as well. But yeah, I do work out of my home office up in Minnesota, just about 30 minutes south of Mille Lacs Lake where we're heading for stage 7. So you mentioned that earlier. You're pretty excited for one. That's where I grew up. So I'm really excited to see how the BPT guys do as well.
It's interesting. I've talked to quite a few guys, and I know a lot of guys who fished Mille Lacs through the decades, I guess.
Sure.
They started before, Bass went up there and Seth Fighter blew everything away with the 6s, and they've talked about over the last decade, especially with the issues that they've had with walleye up there, and then the people trying to make a living with charters and guiding, and now the focus on smallmouth, how much that fishery has changed with fishing pressure and notoriety over the past years. And then I'm interested in seeing it because with the catch and release format, I'll be interested to see how much largemouth play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a very underrated largemouth fishery. Obviously, it's known for the smallmouth, and that's what everybody's, that's what the winner will likely be catching. It's going to be massive smallmouth, but it's underrated as far as largemouth. There's definitely a decent population of largemouth in there, and it's one of the best lakes in Minnesota because, it's a trophy fishery. You can go there and catch trophies of multiple different species, whether it's a giant smallmouth, huge walleye, muskie. There's, some massive jumbo perch in there. So there's just a lot of opportunities. It's a great fishery, and we're looking forward to showing it off next month.
I mentioned Dakota Ebear, the 710. What was the record? Biggest BPT smallmouth?
Well, that is it. I don't know what the old record was because, I'm sure it was, set last year, either on St. Clair or the St. Lawrence. Because
there's got to be. I don't ever remember a 710, though, in all of the years of covering this. Has there been one in like a Toyota series or an 8-pounder out of St. Clair or anything ever?
Not that I recall. And it's really kind of hard to track because, we never really track species there. And, if weighing in the big bass, usually there's a big bass award. We don't weigh them all. If say there's a 8-pound largemouth weighed, no one's going to be weighing their 6s or 7s. Or they may weigh them, but we don't keep any record of that. I promise you, Joe,
any smallmouth over 7 gets weighed, whether it's big bass or not.
You're right. But we don't keep any record of that, and we don't keep a record that it is a smallmouth on that side of things. So with BPT and the score track and everything, much easier to track because it's all logged, species is logged, all that important information. On the pro circuit and Toyota series side, you weigh in and it goes into the release boat to never be seen again or to be caught again by somebody else. But yeah, we don't log that stuff. So it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, 710, massive smallmouth, the biggest smallmouth we've ever had in Bass Pro Tour competition. Absolutely.
That's got to be the biggest smallmouth ever caught on camera. Ever in the history of Earth.
It was a dinosaur. Like I said, there was a great feature that went up over the weekend, Dakota explaining that catch and kind of going through it. And yeah, it's really cool. He's so excited. And I mean, who wouldn't be? But if you haven't checked out that video with Dakota kind of walking you through that catch, check it out because it's really cool.
I remember, I think Butch Brown has some stuff out of like cast to catch like a 15-pound largemouth. I think Milliken has one out that's monstrous like that, like the biggest, they're claiming like the biggest cast to catch largemouth like that. That's got to be the biggest cast to catch smallmouth. Has to be. There's no one else. If anyone has any cast to catch YouTube, I mean, not like grainy Bigfoot footage, but like a legit cast to catch of anything over 710, I'd be very interested in seeing that.
Yeah. It was, I think, just 10 ounces shy of the state record, which was
just caught.
On Cayuga. Yeah, on Cayuga. So that would have been a fun story.
Another place.
We kind of got into that discussion during the event. Like, if it would have been a record-breaking fish, what would we have done? Like,
you'd have had to box it, wouldn't you?
I don't know. We need to figure that out because
dude, as the media guy, I think you need to bring that up because that's a feather in the cap. That's something that you can take and run with. So you need to have those protocols in there. If it is a state or world record, here's the protocol and actually put that into the stipulations. Sure.
No, I think we do need to get a plan together because it could happen in the future. And yeah, like we saw how much press the state record got, and it was just just an angler out on the water. If it actually happened during an actual Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour event, that would be a pretty cool story. So yeah, I need to get on my game. We need to get a plan together.
I'm curious, has there ever been a state or world record caught in a AAA or professional level event?
Not that I can recall.
Because I'm thinking typically the fisheries that hold that many boats aren't conducive to world records, right? Typically there's a freak show thing that you have there, whether it's bait fish size, hard to access. But that would be interesting. There's had to have been a state record before caught during but I can't recall. I can't recall anything happening.
So I've been with, FLW since 2011. And so in the last 11 years, it definitely has not happened.
That includes BFLs, Toyotas, Pro Tour, everything.
We've had some special fish caught. Like I remember the tagged fish down in Florida that was worth $5,000 that the guy caught during the Toyota series.
Christian Greco.
Yep. And who actually won there this year on the pro circuit. So we've had kind of some cool stories like that, but never actually a world record fish, actually caught during competition. That'd be sweet though.
That would. I think it would have to be like it would probably have to, I don't think there's nowhere you fish that a spotted bass would even play based on what they've got going out there in California.
Right.
It would have to be a smallmouth or a meanmouth.
Well, living here near Mille Lacs, I can tell you we're not going to hit 710 next month, probably. I mean, we were going to see some sixes, maybe a 7 or 2, but 710, that was a dinosaur. I don't expect we'll see that record broken next month at Mille Lacs.
Wow. 2022 Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit title. That's the biggest event coming up. That thing kicks off tomorrow. 50 guys who battled it out this past year through 6 events. That was the one Michael Neal was Angler of the Year. Justin Luca was second. That was a great race. Had both of them on the show last week, and then they both went and won their rounds at the BPT event. But
kind of screwed up the show last week. Sorry.
Yeah, this is the what is this, the second or third year that you guys have done kind of a hybrid format for this event?
Yeah, so this is the third title. The first one was, Bass Pro Tour format, catch, weigh, immediate release. Last year we moved to this hybrid format where it's still, the 5-fish format. We'll have a weigh-in, but it's similar to the Bass Pro Tour as far as the, 6-day event with the qualifying round. The qualifying round winners advancing directly to the championship, weights zeroing and all that. So it's kind of, the hybrid format as far as, similar tournament structure, but 5-fish format with the weigh-in.
Okay, so they're bringing them in. It's just so it's
Yep.
the hybrid, and this doesn't count towards points or anything. This is just a one-off money event.
Yep, this is go for it. Get that big cheddar.
All right. Field wise, and I did a little bit of research on this. 50 anglers in the field. Jimmy Washam, who we've had on the show a couple times too. He won in 2021 with some awesome catches. That was the one on the Mississippi where he got like fish stuck and was catching them on the little worm and came in. Great story with Jimmy Washam too. One of those guys that kind of came up through the ranks, took a chance at it, and then was like, oh, here's a big check. Here's another big check. Oh, here's a belt.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of had a rough year this year, but he's been a great champion for us over the past season. And like I said, he came up through the system, BFLs, Toyota Series, made it to the pro circuit and, won the title last year. So he's been a great representative for us. And he's back in this year, despite, a rough season, but just based on his win from last year.
10 BPT anglers who double dipped into the pro circuit made the championship. So roughly 1 out of the 5 competitors. I've never understood why some people have an issue with that. I think it's great. You want to fish the more, the merrier. I mean, it is the pro circuit, the old FLW tour. It is a professional level. I got no issues with that. The other interesting caveat, is caveat the word? Or the interesting asterisk next to it there is Andy Newcomb is best friends with John Cox right now because John Cox qualified in, I think, 16th place to fish the title. However, as he seems to find himself every year because he fishes every tournament that he is physically available for and some that he's not even. Remember, he showed up to and fish classics with no practice before last year and got straight from event to event to event. John Cox is at Oahe in the next to last Elite Series event this week instead of competing in the title, which I found interesting, Joe, because I called you and asked if you knew of that, because I went and I ran the math. So Polinick has a big lead on the Elite Series. He's kind of catchable. Cox is in third, but I mean, let's be honest, he's not really that catchable. Polinick's probably got this thing in the bag. And I was like, well, you could drop 90 points. He'd still be in the top 20. He'd still qualify for the Classic with ease, and he could just roll right over from Cayuga to, or not, but he could roll right from stay in New York, fish the title, fish for all the money, not have to drive out and hit 3 pheasants with his truck in South Dakota and try to figure out a place on the moon. So I did contact Bass officials, and their rule states that in order to qualify for that Classic, an angler has to fish every possible day of competition that he's available for, unless they get like a written release from Bass that says it's okay, you miss these days. He did not get that written release to compete in the title this year, so he kind of had to make a decision. Title, what it came down to was title or Classic. And he's third in that Angler of the Year, so outside chance of Angler in the Year. He's pretty much accomplished everything you can accomplish on the MLF side, so he's at Oahe chasing smallmouth on the moon instead of at the title, which puts Andy Newcomb from Missouri in the title.
Yep, like you mentioned, we called up Andy just to keep the the 2 groups even. They're split into 2 groups of 25. So when John kind of let us know that he was heading to Oahe, in order to keep the groups even and 25 apiece, called up Andy, and he was extremely happy to receive that phone call, no doubt.
Lots of other stuff going on at the title as well, as far as festivals, activities. Do you have a rundown of that?
Yeah, so it's on Saturday and Sunday. Out at the Messina Intake Boat Launch, noon to 8. We got the full MLF festival going on. They're going to have vendor booths and food trucks and a couple live bands playing and lots of Meet the Pros opportunities. So, we're treating it like a full-on championship event and trying to celebrate the pro circuit and the fantastic season that they've had this year.
You want to get into points?
Sure.
All right, let's get into points here. So I did a show at the end, and I wanted to make sure I had all this right. So run down it's done. The pro circuit series season is done. The invites will be sent out to, well, who? How does the pro circuit invites work to move up to the Bass Pro Tour? And then do you know when they have to say, yeah, I'm in, or no, not my jam?
I don't. I'm sure it's coming up here, early November. I don't know the exact date. But basically how it works is if you finish in the top 10 of the point standings of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, you will receive that invitation. Now, that being said, you do need to finish inside that top 10. And as the Bass Pro Tour anglers that compete on the pro circuit, if they finish inside that top 10, we do not go down. That spot reverts back to the Bass Pro Tour. So this year, 3 anglers, Dakota Ebear, Justin Lucas, and Michael Neal, champion. Obviously Bass Pro Tour competitors. So those 3 spots will revert back to the Bass Pro Tour. But that does mean those 7 anglers that finish inside the top 10, Spencer Sheffield, Josh Butler, Matt Becker, Nick LeBrun, Mitch Crane, John Hunter, and Jacob Wall will receive the 7 invitations up to the Bass Pro Tour next year. Now, whether or not they accept it, that's a whole nother story, but they absolutely will have the opportunity to get an invitation and to compete on the Bass Pro Tour in 2023.
Okay. And then the points on there's a really good article that you guys came out with just prior to the Cayuga event that kind of put into perspective the BPT anglers who are on the chopping block, for lack of a better term. And this is really going to be the first year of the BPT where guys get cut. Sure. That's always been a weird deal in professional fishing. You have some tours that they don't cut, and then the Elite Series had a cut, but then they still never cut, but then sometimes they cut. Now they're figuring out how to cut. It's never been, no pun intended, a cut and dry process as far as who's on and who's off. Is that weird to you? As much as you've done this too, it's always kind of up in the air to me.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of kind of factors go in it behind the scenes. I mean, we have these rules in place, but then shuffling of circuits and all of a sudden the pro circuit format gets changed, and that tweaks the current rules that we have in as far as qualification structure and everything like that. So it is kind of always been muddy. Like you mentioned the article that's on majorleaguefishing.com. It does a great job of kind of clearing that up a little bit. I've got it pulled up right here in front of me to use as a kind of a resource during this conversation if you're asking me the tough questions. But it is something that we're trying to make more clear and get that pathway for the anglers and stick to it. So that's something that we're improving on, and we're looking forward to next year seeing how this process shakes out. I mean, we've got a system in place, we're sticking to it, and it is what it is.
Like in the golf, the guys you've maybe never heard of them, but they make a putt on 16 and you see their little number go up and they're trying to stay in the top 125. And then there's always 3 or 4 guys who end up on the 18th hole, the last, PGA Tour event of the year. And they're if he makes this, he's on tour next year. If not, he's back to the Corn Ferry, or he has to use exemptions and stuff. I mean, that kind of puts into perspective how important. So do you have a list? Do you have an idea of who really is in trouble here? That just those bottom 6 guys. Did anyone do themselves a world of good at Cayuga? It didn't seem like any of those guys moved off of the chopping block.
Yeah, I don't have the updated stats in front of me after Cayuga. So there will definitely be, going into Mille Lacs, some big time storylines as far as, guys really feeling the heat and knowing they have to finish 58th or better, or whatever that number is. But, heading into Cayuga, the anglers that had some work to do, Jeff Crete, Kelly Jordan, Cliff Crochet, Boyd Duckett, Mike McClellan, Jason Lambert, Shaw Grigsby, and Paul Elias. Now, I've heard some rumblings that, Paul was going to be retiring no matter what. And I don't know that that's the case, and I haven't heard that from his mouth. I've just heard rumors. Timmy Horton did announce his retirement.
He did. He came on the show and talked about it. It was a really good show.
Yeah. So it was kind of a surprise, but
Paul made the cut in this event.
What's that?
Paul made the cut. Didn't he?
Yeah. He had a good event, and so did Tim. Timmy did as well. So but it'll be interesting to see what shakes out as far as who voluntarily departs, who is cut, all that. This is going to be the first season coming up here, and you mentioned the Kayak Fishing League and the drama that goes on there. Well, yeah, more drama's coming, so get ready over the next 60 days as this all shakes out.
Listen, I was perusing. I'll just read. I'll tease it I'll probably get into this with Tom and see what his thoughts. So this is I won't even say the guy's name. It's just KFL statement regarding so-and-so. And it's got the little logo officially up front. And it says, KFL has reviewed the disturbing video from blank blank sorry, from blank blank Facebook post and has spoken with both parties in regards to blank blank's actions on the water during the KFL game between the Southern Slayers and Florida Copperheads on the Tenoric this past Saturday. Florida Copperheads has officially released so-and-so from the team, and the league has decided to suspend him indefinitely. The actions by so-and-so violate our rules and player conduct policy. The severity of so-and-so's actions resulted in this conclusion.
Wow.
I mean, that's like a game. That's like a press release, like right there. Like if that doesn't make you start perusing the interwebs to figure out what the heck went down, nothing does. Because I've never seen one like that before.
I was just about to say, as soon as I jump off here, now I'm going to be Googling and trying to find this video. And seeing what
but
the
just
heck
the
happened.
use of the words, games and teams and suspended and released, and I mean, you're talking like. So then I dove into that, and it's very interesting what they have going on there.
Did you see the video? Do you know what would happen?
No, I never got that far. I think based on what I could tell, based on all of the comments, it was something where I don't even know. It was like some people say like refused. I don't know. I don't even want to get into it. I don't know what happened.
Fair.
There's no clear cut as to what he did or did not do. I think it may have had something to do with like getting DQ'd and then refusing to leave the water. or playing defense. I don't know. It sounds fun though.
It's got us talking about them on Bass Talk Live, and it's got a whole new audience opened up to the KFL, and gonna be Googling them, talking about them this morning. So
I mean, they've got teams like the Granite City Sticks, the Bayside Attack, the Massachusetts Maulers, the Maniacs, the Pennsylvania Bronzebacks. They have like standings, all sorts of stuff.
I can't believe that I've never heard of this league before. I've heard of some of these various kayak leagues, and I've got some friends that compete on them, like Bailey Eggbright with, Serious Angler Podcast.
Crushing it.
Yeah, he's a fantastic kayak angler, but I've never heard of this KFL league and these teams, and this all sounds pretty cool. But
like you go on their website, and it says the first thing there is vote for the 2022 All-Star Game.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. I'm going to take a look, and maybe I can get an idea or two.
It looks like they're based out of Virginia. A lot of East Coast with mini boats, kayaks, and stuff on all those fisheries out there. Probably a lot easier to get through all that traffic with a yak on the top or in the truck instead of a 20-foot bass boat.
Yeah, I've got a lot of options to fish there. Don't have to travel super far to find events.
All right, Joe, let's put a bow on the points deal. So there's a lot of fishing left. Obviously, we have one more of the BPTs. There's also multiple BPT anglers who are fishing Bassmaster Opens, multiple qualifiers through the pro circuit who still have Bassmaster Opens left. They could catch them and qualify. They could not catch them and qualify. Let's do both scenarios. You have, I think, like Keith Poche, Nick LeBrun, John Hunter, Cody Myers, Zach Burge. So there's like 6 guys right there who have a chance.
Yep.
Any or all of those guys qualify. They all take a BPT spot. Like, Cody Myers, Zach Burge return, Poche returns. If they end up not, that goes down the BPT list of guys who would have gotten cut. So the next list, so you won't know until the end of the opens technically, and the invites go out and all that as to exactly who's in, right?
Correct.
And then any of the pro circuit qualifiers, if they accept, obviously they go on the BPT. Those guys get cut. If they don't accept, that also goes down the BPT list then.
Yep, that is correct as well.
So there's the potential of only 2 or 3 or maybe one, technically one with Timmy Horton's retirement, or if someone else retires and then everybody makes it and accepts, or 7.
Sure. Technically, yes, but
that's not going to work out that way.
Right. I mean, that's if everybody declines their Bass Pro Tour invitation, which I don't think is going to happen. I mean, if you look at the guys that moved up last year from the pro circuit, Dakota Eber and Clay Van Johnson, Jeremy Lawyer. Great seasons. You talk to any one of them and ask, what do they think about the Bass Pro Tour? I think you will get an honest review, and I don't think anybody's going anywhere. So I don't know what it will all shake out and look like, but you are correct. If they do decline their invitation, it does go back to the Bass Pro Tour anglers.
It's crazy. Yeah, if you look at the Bass Pro Tour earnings on it, like everybody inside of Red Crest right now has at least at least $40,000 in earnings, and most of them have 50, 60, 70, 80. You know,
Awesome.
Fibra is right there in 39th. He's got 41, 223, but Bradley Roy, he won 124. So anyway, what else you got, Joe, that needs to be that guys need to be on the lookout for? What's the deal? Are the Toyota series is still going on, right? You still have a bunch of Toyotas left?
Oh, yeah.
Or is
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Not a bunch. There's a couple. And then, of course, the championship coming up on Gunnersville in November. So that'll be a fun one. Title all week. I mean, for people that like watching fishing, this is going to be a good week for it. You know, they have got the day off today, but the event starts tomorrow and will run every day through Sunday. So live stream starts at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time every day. It goes till 2:30 Eastern, and then we'll have the weigh-ins as well, starting a half hour later. So if you're a 5-fish limit format kind of guy, we've got a lot of great stuff for you going on this week. And then, of course, coming up, Stage 7, BPT at Mille Lacs. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun. And the culmination of the season, there's going to be a lot of drama and storylines coming out of that one. So it's going to be a fun couple of weeks here at Major League Fishing.
They got to stay in the river on this one.
They do. Yep. Ontario is off limits.
Interesting. I like that. That gives you're talking current, backwaters, the islands, longer runs, a lot more different than what we've seen in the recent events.
Yeah, it's going to be a good event. They're going to crush the smallmouth. I mean, we always do when you go to the St. Lawrence. But last year out of Messina, we had a really great event. Great facilities there at the Messina intake. You know, we're going to have the whole circus there this weekend. So it's just got everything that we're looking for. What's that?
Are you going?
I'm not. My colleague Charity is up there. She'll be there throughout the week. I'm working the BPT at Mille Lacs, close to home. So she's going to this one and I'm going to that one. We kind of tag team.
Well, that's a good deal.
Yeah. Sleep in my own bed for the first time ever. I'm pretty excited.
Heck yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate you jumping on, clearing some stuff up, giving the details on what's going on. It's been an exciting month over at Major League Fishing, and we'll continue for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll give you guys plenty to talk about.
All right. See you, Joe.
All right. Take care, bud.
That was Joe. Pogger always has all of the answers there with MLF. I've known him for a very long time. We are going to take our first break of the show, and when we come back, Tom Redington. I've had some really good text conversations and some in-person conversations with Tom. Always like kind of his take when he sends me messages, and I was like, dude, you need to come on the show. We need to chat about some of this stuff. He's done a lot of stuff over the course of his career, and fish with a lot of good people, a lot of accomplishments. But we will talk to Tom when we come back. BTL on a Monday, kicking off another live week of shows from the studio in Moore, Oklahoma. We'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 Jerkbait.
15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Monday. Now it's time to go to Tom Redington, long-time Tackle Warehouse Pro, Circuit Pro. I was looking at his stats there. He even fished as a co-angler back in 2004. That was a long time ago, Tom. How are you doing? Thanks for jumping on BTL, man. I greatly appreciate the time. I know this has been several months in the making.
Yeah, really happy to be here. Last time I was on, we were eulogizing Mark Pack, so a lot more fun today.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to get you on because I always appreciate your text to me. You always have some interesting insight as far as kind of what goes down on BTL, and you seem to be one of those guys who kind of listen sometimes, like while you're driving, while you're fishing. If something kind of piques your interest, you're not afraid to say, I disagree with that, or I like this, or here's a different angle. So I figured we just get into a whole bunch of stuff over the next half hour if you're good.
Yeah, bring it on.
First of all, you kind of did a really cool thing after the last event and kind of turned it into a week or two of vacation afterwards, right?
Yeah, so you're in upstate New York from Dallas here. That's it's like 28 hours one way. So had my son fly up, and he said, "Hey, I've never been to New York City." So I made him a deal. I said, "We'll fish a couple days in Champlain if I'll take you to New York City if you fish a couple days up here." And he's 16. For him to go see the big city was a pretty cool deal. Stayed right downtown there, visited all the stuff. And the last time I was there, actually, we took about 1,000 Boy Scouts fishing in Brooklyn.
Cow.
So that was quite an experience. So
in Central Park?
Now there's a lot of regulations in Central Park. So we went to Brooklyn, to Prospect Park, but really had literally 1,000 scouts there. The whole concept, they wrote articles and stuff, was that don't say that you're too urban, that you don't have fishing opportunities near you. They're everywhere. But with my son, we took in the city and then took in New York and 70 degrees and drove back 28 hours. He got an appreciation for the professional truck driving life that's bass fishing.
I had Brad Hallman and Ken Duke on the show a couple days ago, and we never know where these shows are going to go. And Brad kind of took it down the path of how difficult it is to do this with a family, with kids who are growing up. I know your son's involved in sports outside of that and busy, and you're one of those guys that's kind of raised a family while fishing at the professional level, guiding before that too. Is it kind of cool to see, as your boy gets older and stuff, to be able to take him up and do things like this on that, and how challenging is that to kind of balance the fishing and home life for, basically your whole life?
Yeah, it's I guess the short answer is it's not easy, but I think the fishing part of it has a lot of positives as well. Straight out of college, I was a marketing graduate. I spent 10 years in the corporate world. Fortune 100 companies, sales marketing, so like GE and Rubbermaid and powerhouse brands like that, Irwin Tools. So I was executive platinum on an airplane all the time. When I got on the plane to go to a trade show, I didn't want to be there. Frankly, it great money. But I didn't want to go talk about Sharpies and light bulbs for a week. It was just traveling around. And once I started the fishing gig, I'm on the road a ton, But at least when I'm making that ride, like I want to be there. When I sit down and do my expense accounts for when I was traveling in the corporate world all the time, it was like reliving all the stuff. Like, oh yeah, here's my receipt when I sat 10 hours in Atlanta trying to get back, because of storm. Now the travel, it's always going where I want to go. If I'm on a podcast or a conference call like this, I want to be on it. So it's a lot better. And what allows you, you're gone for those tournaments, and there is some guilt. When my son was about 6 or so, he would run alongside the street when I left. It's the hardest thing in the world. He's running. It's like you have to stay in the house. I can't handle this when I'm leaving. But the cool part is when you come home, you get to play super dad for a week. And when he was in kindergarten, first grade and stuff, I'd be a lot of times the only dad that in the middle of a week could come to a field trip to the zoo or something. And then in the off seasons we head into now, you get a lot of disposable time. Mm-hmm. So I have the freedom to do stuff. So the fishing gig, yeah, it's tough leaving the family. It's I've heard Paul and Nick say on your show before that you have to be a little selfish to do it. And you see a lot of guys that, back in the day, I remember Kelly Jordan was the ultimate bachelor. He had, Pat kind of set him up he had an apartment over there in, I believe, Mineola, and he just kept his lures over there. He was gone constantly. You look at somebody currently Jacob Wheeler, he's awesome because he constantly is watching fishing shows, always fishing, and then you get married, and then you have a kid. It's just life. We're all people, and you have sponsor obligations and stuff, so it's hard to mix all that stuff together. And sometimes you see guys' career trajectory go down a little bit, but it's kind of on your life curve. It's like I have several different factors. I don't want to be an A+ in fishing and an F- as a husband or as a father, or any of that stuff. So guys, that's where you see these careers where guys sometimes pull back, and then as the kids get a little bit older, maybe take off again. And you see the Lanes now, uncle and dad touring with Cal out there, and then they get it together. So and the people that do do the camping, take the family along. That's the way to do it. That's probably the best way to do it in the industry.
Dude, so at the what are the classics the last couple of years? Last time I had seen Cal Lane, he was 12 putting Chris's boat on the trailer, and then all of a sudden we're at a classic, and my girlfriend had never been to a classic, so I bring her to the new Texas Classic, right there in Dallas. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's a good one to go to. She'll be like, oh, I'm impressed. This is actually legit. And the next thing I know, we're at a restaurant, and there's this dude hitting on my girlfriend, and it's Cal Lane. And I was like, wait, I know you, dude. And he's like, yeah. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to fish the Pro Tour this year and all this stuff. And I was like, holy cow, I'm freaking old now.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's neat.
You hit on my girlfriend again.
Yeah, it's neat to watch those dynamics, especially then you look at, saw what Marty Robinson's wife was talking well, do I follow Marty, or do I follow my kid at the college event, or do I stay with my kid at the high school event? And then obviously the Rabanises and the Howells and Stephen Browning. I'm once you start naming them, you leave them all out, but it's nuts how many kids grew up in this and then, kind of have the blueprint to follow in the footsteps of their dads.
Yeah, and it's I always said there's a gene or something like that. Some people, they catch a fish and oh, that's cool. I've never taken somebody fishing when they catch one. They don't have a thrill. It's fun. But other people are okay, put it up, and we about ready to go to lunch now. And then other people, they catch one and they're
yeah,
how do I do this? And it's spend the rest of their life. And you take the combination of somebody the parents who are excellent at it, and the kid who has the desire to do it, has that gene. It's pretty powerful. And you see that, Scott Martin was a classic example, had the foothold, and now there's a way.
Hillary Sue's dominating everything now. You look at her, she's she's the next cog in the machine. He got Roland in there to get it, and then Roland did the TV and the print ads and stuff and taught Scott, and Scott took it into the digital age, and now Hillary is, she's a force to be reckoned with in the social media world and can catch them on the water too. I looked to see where they finished in the high school event that they just had on Hartwell.
Yeah, that's a huge head start. And like you said, there's a whole wave of them. I see them all, like you said, roommate as his kid and stuff. They had Rady Howell, his son is on the come. And I tell you, I did the high school fishing with my son 1 year. And even before that, I have to, it's hard to keep a straight face. You do the Will Ferrell straight man. But when somebody's struggling to put their boat on the trailer and they're backing it sideways, and all of us, you back it straight down. And then there's a little kid, your son maybe at like 10 or 12, takes the boat and just pins it, comes right up the trailer, boom, one try, you wave him up, like give her the gas, boom, pops it up, and this guy's out there just struggling with it. I mean, it's that's about my favorite thing to do with the boat ramp. Always makes me chuckle.
Yeah. I want to circle back. You mentioned the corporate world. This was another thing we talked about with Bradley. How did you get out of that and end up with the fishing and guide thing? Like that had to be a hard cycle to break out of. Making good money, traveling, doing the thing. You've done what you're supposed to do. How did you move on to the guiding and professional fishing from that life? If you don't mind getting into that, I mean, that's a perfect case study.
It's 100% by design, and it's
okay.
That's the difference in our sport now. Even a few guys going back to the day, Gary Klein was the first kid who actually came straight out of high school. His
California, 19 years old. He had the blonde hair, and he was. I mean, I've seen the videos where it's like, here's a big young gun on tour, Gary Klein.
Going back to the day, Rick Clunn was a programmer for, I think, like IBM even, and Bill Dance was furniture salesman. Even we didn't have the high school fishing, the college fishing. So I knew in college I wanted to fish. And so, I worked, and the way I looked at it is like, I'm going to need some resources to do it, and I need some time to do it. So sales was the perfect, that was a perfect job. And I grew up in Illinois. I started in Illinois, kept on going farther north, and I got to fish a lot of the natural lakes in Wisconsin. I was in Milwaukee and Madison. So it's a fun time fishing. But the nice thing about sales is that as long as your numbers are good, they don't harass you too much. And the other thing is most of them play golf. So in the sunny days, if you're in the office, they're like, dude, this guy's a hardcore worker. As you know, it's the pre-funnel days when it's rainy and cold and stuff. That's when they bite. So I'd always be in the office till like 6 or 7 on the sunny days. The boss would be like, man, this guy works hard. In the rainy days, they think, no way he's out fishing. And I do it. And after 5 years of that, I knew I wanted to get to Texas. I wanted to get down to Lake Fork and, fish down here so I could fish year round and learn to fish a little bit differently. So that's why I started looking and moved myself down here. Did another 5 years down here. And then it was really a 5-year program at that point. As soon as I got to the 5 years and was vested, then, I saved up as much as I could the whole time. So I had a little nest egg and then started in the guiding and then worked myself through guiding, having everyday income to sustain, started fishing the Toyotas and work my way into the pros.
Tougher figuring out fishing at a professional level or breaking into the ultra tough guide scene down there around Lake Fork?
Yeah. That's it's not as bad. Some of the striper guides, the stories, slashing tires and just it's crazy. Thankfully, I get along well with most people, and I took a year off. I felt kind of sheepish about taking people fishing, so I took a year off and said, I'm going to fish every day out here, and I'm just going to try stuff. I'm going to try every area of the lake. If I know I can catch him on a jig, then I'm going to force myself to try a jerkbait. If I can catch him in Birch Creek, well, I'm going to leave, and basically I practiced for a year. And word kind of got around, and I had actually gone in my corporate days with some of the guides, so I had a little relationship. But there's this guy, all he does is just fish every day. He's going to guide next year, so I already had like a reputation. They were a little suspicious, but thankfully I got to know a couple of the guides, John Tanner and Mark Pack specifically, and they helped me in it. And like anything else, if they vouch for you, then it goes a long ways. So that kind of eased me into it. And once these guys said, hey, this guy's cool. And then I did some of the co-angling with them, like you said, back in 2004 to the FLWs and stuff. So kind of got my feet wet and feel like I paid my dues, worked my way up.
How many days were you guiding at the peak?
With a kid then, especially a young one, I dialed it back, but easily doing 175, 200. And that's about as much you want to do.
Yeah. Is it easy to burn out on that? I've talked to a lot of guys, and there's a lot of guys who don't want to talk about it, like on the show. But there's guys who you don't even realize they guided, and they guided for 5 years, and they say, I'd rather do anything else than guide. But then you talk to other guys who, like I look at like a Matt Reed, like, dude, that guy like genuinely loves going out and catching fish. Yeah. And it seems like he's got a setup. You see what Josh Douglas is doing up there in Minnesota. Now you're seeing a bunch of guys that do this weird hybrid electronics class guiding type thing. But like, just the old school nitty gritty, not knowing who you're taking out, have someone with high expectations showing up and not knowing their skill level. That's like seems to really take a mental toll on a lot of guys all over the years.
Yeah, I was like a year in, and I'm coming out of the corporate world. I got to go fish every day. So I'm like, this is great. And I was at a trade show, and Pac was there, and Kelly, and Pac said, "So you hate guiding yet?" "No, man, I love it. I got to go fish every day." He's like, "You will." I was like, no, I like it. He said, no, you will. He's like, Kelly, what do you think, God? You hate it? He's like, yeah, I hated it. It's a lot of guys. So I was like kind of expecting it to come. But, you take a number of guys who are skilled, that are fun in the boat. Those days it's just like going fishing with buddies. And there's sometimes when it's a wide open pattern, you're fishing as well. Everybody's catching them. It's a great time. There's other times where it's a total instructional trip, and I'm fine with that too. Like, I always felt like I could always teach them something. It's the ones that really they didn't fish very much, and it was a striper trip. They just want to come and just like blast them, but they couldn't fish. And it's, if it's a technical bite or something, you have to pitch it and let it fall right next to a tree, or you're, just crawling it through the bottom, or having to put it on your dock post or something. Like you can't say, well, I'll give you $100 tip or $500 tip and like put me on a 10-pounder. It's not like a deer ranch where it's like, okay, we'll go to the feeder, and if you can just hold his gun steady, you got him. There's some skill there. So those trips were harder. But the biggest thing for me where I transitioned was just that, like, I kind of felt like I got in a rut at Fork. I was doing the same thing over and over. You have preconceived notions of how to catch them. It's changed now with live scope. A lot of that you had to visualize and catch them. But it's like, okay, it's February in the morning. I'm going to run Birch Creek. I'm going to run creek channels. Afternoon, I'm going to get out some grass and trap it. There wasn't that growth. And I got to the point where if I'm going to become better as a tournament fisherman, I need to go fish, a shaky head up on Beaver Lake, or a jerkbait on Table Rock. I don't need to go flip up another 8-pounder on Lake Fork in the grass. It's fun, but I'm not learning anything. So that was the biggest motivator to move on.
And then you kind of started moving on from the guiding in what year?
Oh, 3-4 years ago now. Yeah. Maybe probably 18, 19, so we're around there.
Is that a deal where you have visions of, maybe I might get back into it a little bit? Or is it a phase that you're glad you did, you grew as an angler, and it's in the past now?
Yeah, I think I would do it a little bit differently now. It's I look at the model, my son with youth sports, baseball, and like, you can't pitch or hit. Every single kid on those elite teams they have more coaches than their professional athlete, I swear. So, and they're giving up $60, $80 for a half hour to do this. I'm thinking, how do I crack into that where I do these lessons? And these guys are ones that, like, they pitched at Southeast, Northwestern, Oklahoma State, something like that for 1 year or something. And they're pulling down this money, thinking, with all these high school fishing and stuff, maybe there's something. And I enjoy the teaching aspect more. There's nothing more rewarding. Somebody wants to learn how to use their live scope. Somebody wants to learn how to scout a lake or something. That's where it's fun. And go down and catch them. So I think getting back into it is decent money, and we have big off seasons. One year to the next it'll be a little bit different, but it's if you do it more in the learning, the teaching, it's a lot more enjoyable.
Awesome. We're talking with Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit Pro Tom Redington, BTL, on a Monday. When we come back from the break, Tom, I want to get into you're a solid professional angler. Like, statistically, you're not a top 1%er. You're not a bottom 20. You are the meat and potatoes of what the lifeblood of professional tournament fishing is. Fair assessment?
Sure.
You've won. You've caught them. You've made titles. You've had great years. You've had bad years. You're the guy. I want to get your take on kind of the health of professional fishing and what you think the right formula is to allow the maximum number of guys to make a living at doing this for their family, to support their family without getting ulcers and going insane after 5 years of trying to do it. Fair? Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into that when we come back. BTL on a Monday with Tom Redington. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Welcome back, talking with Tom Redington, who I did not know you had a professional background in marketing and sales.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I was unaware of that. And I think that takes this whole interview in a different direction, because I would like to know, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time now. How many guys are maximizing their potential that are professional fishermen, and how many are leaving money on the table and saying, oh, I can't do this. This is so hard. I'm living off the credit card thing, and just don't understand how to maximize their potential as far as dollars and earnings?
I would say a few years ago, probably a lot more were leaving a lot on the table. In today's day and age, social media and YouTube have really forced pros to step up the marketing side. And you take somebody like Edwin Evers 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when you're winning like he was, that's all he needed to do. And he would just go on the speaking circuit a bit. Maybe they'd give him a TNN fishing show or something. Like now, he sees the whole YouTube game, and here's Edward out there hustling and putting out some of the best content on YouTube that's out there. You know, Christie's the same way. There's a guy that 15 years ago, he's just the guy. He's Denny Brower. He's like, all the endorsements are enough. So a lot of the guys are good. And the next generation of guys, like all of them, my story's not unique. I mean, they're all hustlers. These guys, they're I look at the young generation. I've gotten around to know a number of the guys they're headed up to the BPT next year. You look at like a Jacob Wall and Matt Becker and stuff, guys like that. Gray Buck, another great example. These are smart, like college educated guys they hustle. They're doing guiding on the side. They're doing marketing stuff. They're figuring out new sponsors. I mean, they're constantly hustling. So the day of just sitting back and not doing the marketing side, that's becoming a huge part of it. And it's more traceable now because when you have likes and follows, all that stuff, it's there in plain sight for people to see. So sponsors aren't guessing anymore. I mean, they want the metrics. They track them pretty extensively.
We mentioned Scott Martin before. You've like rolled with that whole crew before. You've seen how that production goes down. I've talked with Bradley about it, and he's like, dude, he's like, Scott Martin, like from the second he wakes up, he goes, he doesn't even fall asleep. He said he passes out because it's work, and then boom, he's asleep on the couch for 4 hours, and all of a sudden it's morning, it's work again. You've been in the house, you've seen that, you're friends with them. Is that a very impressive to see how much he understands every angle?
Yeah, there's the old saying, a lot of guys are born on, or these trust fund kids, they're born on third base and they think they hit a triple, and there's other guys that take it and like you just run with it. And Scott, early in his career, I rode with him since I started. Pack put us together, so that's going way back to like 2008 or something. And he actually he tried to do different brands than his dad. He didn't want his dad handing him stuff, but he had that insight and the drive to do it. And I know Bradley said the same thing. There's after these tournaments, if you do well, I mean, you just want to decompress. Not Scott. He's like, as soon as the tournament's over, he's filming a show after it, going somewhere, and the off days just go. He is one of the hardest working guys in the industry, and that applies to all of them. You think that they just roll out of bed, and these guys they're bright, they're hardworking. I mean, they get after it, and we all say that, yeah, I should work on drop shot this off season, or man, if I had a weedless hook, I'd probably catch a few more here. The amount of ingenuity, someone like Scott would, he'd be out there tinkering at midnight, like super gluing stuff and making his own little weed guards and stuff. That's that aggregating those little marginal gains, that 0.1%, that if you do 25 of those makes a difference between a Tom Redington and a Scott Martin and a David Dudley and all these guys, Michael Neals, that just kill it.
I guess it's almost like a pitcher is able to add some, a little bit different something to his pitch. Like everyone's at that major league level, but if you can do like a little bit of tighter rotation or something different with your timing or something, it just gives you that little bit of edge. Because once you reach it, I mean, everyone who's out there can catch him. You wouldn't be on the tour if you couldn't catch him.
Right.
And that's where the little differences make. Like for the weekend guy who's just learning it, those differences don't make a difference to him in my opinion, because you're still, it doesn't matter whether you're tweaking your whopper plopper or adding an extra weed guard or making it between a 32nd and 16th ounce fall, because you need to get the basics and the foundation to where you get to the point where then that does make the difference. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. And it's and the other thing is you fight so hard for these little things, and somebody who's really good, like Jay Ellis had that magical year 15, 20 years ago now, the Bass Tricks Minnow, the Hall of Other swim bait.
2008, wasn't it?
Yeah, nobody had it. I mean, he dominated that year. He'd go around to like a Beaver Lake. He went there right at the takeoff and like just thumped them for 4 days. They'd never seen this thing, and word didn't get out till about a year after. Now it's the guys. When I was coming up, KVD, I mean, I tried to emulate everything, and his pattern, covering water and reaction baits and stuff, erratic action. It took a while. All of us caught on, and so the head start he had on guys. It took a while for guys to close that gap. Now somebody like John Cox gets in a big roll. Well, I mean, that stuff's there on live immediately, and his method of power and finesse, mixing that, people catch on to it in one tournament. I mean, by the end of the season, you've seen so much of it, it's hard to stay ahead with that stuff. So it's almost like the guys that do something a little different or have a different approach, like everybody's going towards it, and that's all of sports. If one team wins the Super Bowl and it's they have a really aggressive pass rush 3-4 defense, then the next year everybody's trying to get the edge rushers, and so it's a copycat league in fishing too. And the sweet spot seems like right now it's like if the last time we're at the tournament, everybody caught them in the trees and live scope, well then the shallow is going to be open. And same with this, whatever's the prevailing technique, it's the Moneyball concept. If everybody wants this, then you have to do something a little bit different. So you keep on seeing that shift, but it's so quick now because people with live, everybody adjusts so fast.
Yeah, it's insane. Have you noticed that? I mean, you fish some of the opens too, so you're talking 230 boat fields. That seems blatantly obvious, especially this year to me in the opens. Like, I was like, I need to go do what the big fish deal is, and I do all the research. And, well, there's 80 people there now. Like before, when I was like, oh, I'll go mess around with the little worm, you wouldn't see anybody. But when you do what, when you actually do your homework, it's almost counterproductive in some ways. The more you know, like the less original your thought process is coming into these events.
I would agree and disagree at the same time, because to me, you can see it. Basically, look at the last time there was a major tour there and what was done, and whatever the prevailing pattern was, like, everybody's going to do it. You can write that off, and it's like what not to do almost. Mm-hmm. Like if you go to Harris Chain and these two lakes fire and those are the key ones, everybody's going to spread their practice up there. The other one's going to be wide open. So the guesswork of what everybody's going to do, it lines it up. It's like this beacon saying, don't do these things. Don't go to this section of the lake. That's going to be hammered. So all this other, if ever it was one out deep, then shallow is going to be wide open. We're all guilty of it, but it makes it, it's a tool now. You just know what the underappreciated or what, a less pressured patterns of places are going to be.
I went to break talking about, I wanted to get kind of your thoughts on the industry and stuff. And based on some of the texts you sent me and stuff, I kind of get like, you feel like the sport with the both tours is in a really good place right now. Fair assessment?
Yeah, I think it's going the right direction. And like, at least from an angler's perspective, mm-hmm. Like you want both leagues to do well. You want to, I keep on hearing grow the sport. Like grow the sport is, soccer's been growing the sport forever. Every kid plays soccer as a kid. Like more kids playing soccer is not getting it over the hump. It's growing the audience, and competition is good. Different models for bass and Major League Fishing, but they're having to try to one-up each other and grow the audience. And maybe for the first time ever, 10 years ago, we never would have thought that people making duck calls and, which is Duck Dynasty, or my favorite show, like Gold Rush, watching people dig in the dirt, basically doing nothing in a week's time. They patch a conveyor belt, they fix a water pump, and, they just pour dirt into a machine. Who would have thought we watched that? And, if we ever turn this into a real sport where it's as pros, instead of having to do sponsor deals and sit on here and kind of blatantly plug sponsors, but in off season or out there training and working on your game all the time. And you're starting to see it, like you said, prior with Joe, the guys on the BPT are starting to, 40th on the money list mm-hmm. is decent money. It's getting better. So I think it's headed in the right direction, but like what BPT or Major League Fishing is doing now with the team setups and stuff, you got to keep on throwing stuff. And we're kind of anchored by, well, I grew up with a 5-fish limit and this is how I like it. And these formats, that's the difference between what I want to do on my weekend if I'm fishing a fruit jar versus do we want the sport to be in the business world. You got to keep on coming with ideas and grow it. And just because it's not that way now, we used to always get what they called opportunity budget. It's I know you had a great year last year, but we need 15% more. I have no idea. It's not realistic. Go figure it out. And it goes back to like when I grew up on a farm, if the cows were in a cornfield, it's a pain in the butt. If the neighbor's fence is the reason they got down, might have to march them across the river, might have to put them on a trailer, bring them back. It's like, I don't know that I have the answers, but the thing is, like, I think what you're seeing from Major League Fishing is them saying, we want to make this into a audience sport, like a stick and ball where there is an audience, and maybe for the first time make it more lucrative. And we don't know the ways yet, but we're going to go, the cows are in the cornfield, we want them back in the yard, in the barnyard. Let's figure out a way. And you keep throwing stuff, and it's different, and it's not what we grew up with, but it moves us towards that goal.
Okay, I get that, but let's go a little deeper in this. So here's my sticking point on this. I am with you. I'm an angler now. Like, I mean, I've dedicated myself the last 3 years. I'm going to fish every single open. I want to be a professional angler. I'm also incredibly attached to the history and the tradition of the sport and the context that wins and tournaments and accomplishments and numbers have with the sport to put into context to see how important it is. Now, I know that, if you're Tom Redington, history and tradition means nothing if you're not able to feed your family doing it, right? And if you're not seeing a path forward, like, that's great. Like, I go round and round with Justin Lucas on this. Like, dude, why don't you want to win the Classic? And he's like, dude, I'm providing for my family. I'm on a great platform. I'm making great money. He's like, if that becomes the number one goal in my career at some point, then I will go for it. But right now, I freaking love what I'm doing, right? Yeah. But to me, like, as now the media side of me is saying, what about the history? What about the tradition? You go to the Every Fish Counts, you're trying to expand the audience. They've kind of gone away from the soccer mom stuff, but they were on that for the first like year or two, like try to draw that in. I'm like, there's no history there. There's no tradition there. You can't. And I think, is there a way to continue to expand it and test these new things to see if there is a way to actually get it outside of the bubble that we've been in for so many years while maintaining that history and tradition? Or am I just old school and need to understand that in capitalism and the way that it works, sometimes you have to go a completely different way to make something new. You see what I'm saying there? Where my like allegiance is, I want to look back and say, here's all these traditions and history, but that's also restricting me then.
Yeah. My favorite sport's baseball, and I love the fact that you can look at Babe Ruth's 60 home runs back in 1927 and compare it, and the game's relatively the same. You can compare those stats. Somebody's on-base percentage, a 400 on-base percentage was spectacular back in the 30s. It's spectacular now. They tweaked them out and stuff. So I get it. I like the same thing. But then you also look at some games, the NBA, when you put in the 3-point line and stuff to change the game. So it's
allowed dunking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They took it out for specific reasons and put it back in. But I think the biggest thing here that we're talking about is the sport that you and I love, that we grew up with, is kind of a club sport. It's it's like if the NFL played and the audience were guys who played college football and high school football only. So there's a lot of people very passionate about it. I mean, we argue and stuff, but that's a smaller audience. The product is a TV sport, and that's what Major League Fishing is trying to do, something that somebody's going to sit down and watch. And a lot of those elements, the thrill of the catch and stuff, I mean, it carries over, and you still have the weigh-ins. I mean, it's still the same.
Are weigh-ins antiquated at this point? Are weigh-ins on the way out?
Well, it's.
You think we'll have weigh-ins in 5 years?
Yeah,
at any professional level?
There's the drama of that, but the audience you get there versus the audience you can reach on live, and activating in some of these, it's a small town in the middle of upstate New York or something versus the TV audience. I mean, look, ask the NFL. The people that come there and buy beers and jerseys at a game, hey, it's great extra revenue, but it pales in comparison to the hundreds of millions that the TV product brings in. We're not that big, but I mean, that's the much bigger product. And unfortunately, you're looking at two different things. Like the audience, that if it's a spectator audience, the people that watch it don't fish themselves. I mean, it's really a different product. And those people that we're trying to pull in, and you look at, to me, you and me, Kevin Van Dam is the king. When I do high school fishing with my son and talk to those kids, hardly even recognize who KVD is. A few of them do, but I mean, it's shocking. Yeah. And these guys are, so our mindset of it, what we like and stuff in the business world is it's changing. The millennials, Gen Z are coming, they're all about Scott Martin, Jacob Wheeler, the current guys, the different, the Guggen squad. That's what they see. And that's who you're trying to market to. So we can keep this antiquated concept of, hey, this is what we grew up with. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love doing it. I love the 5-fish format. But if you're trying to make it a TV sport, an audience sport, you kind of have to do what's going to keep an audience.
I wonder if there'll ever be like a way to watch it live other than being out in the boat, like in a boat. Like, will there ever be like a stadium where you've got bleachers on the side and you've got the final three guys that are so like the first. So this is like when Bassone live, right? We were on the water, had laptops that were like the cops had with firewire cables to flip cameras, and then we would stream the stuff back to Jeffries, who had like all this stuff set up in the hotel room, and then we'd go live for like half an hour. It was, no one had ever done it before, like, on the tournament. There'd been some stuff live before, but not during a tournament. Well, we hit the jackpot. We had that event in Florida where Grant Golbeck and Shaw Grigsby were in the pond on the Harris chain. And we broke into the senior living center there and knocked on the door, and I think his name was like Jim, and Jim was like 80, and we're like, Jim, do you have the internet? And he's like, yeah, I don't know how to use it, my son gets me on there. And I was like, well, we do this thing on the internet, can we go in your backyard on your dock and see these guys in the fancy boats there, and they're literally in a little pond. It was a stadium, right? And everyone around was all the blue hairs and guys. I mean, dude, they were cooking hot dogs. They were cheering on it. And you had Grigsby here at 50 yards away. You had Golbeck, and they're both locked up on 6-pound betting fish, and they're so far ahead of everybody. You knew one of them was going to win, and we streamed it live, and the numbers went through the roof. I'm sitting there in person watching it, and I'm going, dude, this is a stadium spectator feel for this right now. But I just don't think with the size of the playing field, there's ever going to be a time that you can keep the purity of it while allowing people to see it in person like that. But that's like an ideal scenario.
Yeah, and I guess the closest would be like when they did Megabucks years ago, and the first couple of days were on like Richland Chambers, and then they came to White Rock Lake in Dallas, and they used to have those whole courses, and that was pretty much bank beating. So, that's an urban lake in Dallas. You could pretty much watch them, but that's the magic of TV. I'm in Dallas, so I love to go to Rangers games, Cowboys games, but a lot of times it's like when I go there, it's the feel and the energy when, like, if they're making a playoff run or something, it's that collective feel. But when you watch it on TV, it's just easier, it's less hassle, and you're part of it. You get all the views. And like at Redcrest this year, when Bobby's making that run at the end of the thing, it's you can have watching parties, maybe do something like that where people get together. But like whether you're at home watching that or you're in a stadium watching it live, like you put yourself in that position, you feel like you're there, you feel like you're part of it. And that's the magic of TV and live. It's the same reason you watch the British Open and watch a guy who like has a 5-stroke lead and just is cratering on the last day. And like, you're not even a golf fan, but it's just like, it's a train wreck. You can't turn away, or the guy comes from behind. It's like you put yourself, like you visualize yourself as being that person. You feel it. You're vested in it. You watch a bowl game in Eastern Carolina versus Midwest Tennessee or something like that, and they're playing, and you don't know anybody, but all of a sudden it's like, dude, it's in third overtime. This is crazy.
Yeah, now you're into it.
It's the theater of you create the drama, and that's every fish count. More times, a lot of times it happens with the 5 fish too.
But every fish counts, a lot more back and forth blows
and
to create more drama.
Crazy, Doug Flutie throw the Hail Mary at the end, catch it in the end zone, beat Notre Dame, crazy finishes.
Yeah. The one thing I don't think that pro fishing has embraced that other sports have that would create drama, that would create, a feel of connection is rivalries. Like you hear it everything. Like, yeah, I really want to beat that guy. I don't like him. I like what he stands for. My whole goal, I train harder in the off season to beat that guy right there. That guy has a grand slam. I want that grand slam. That guy in every rivalry. Think about like how many like the hockey matchups back in the day. It was like Bob Probert versus Ty Domi. Like you had like the rivalry there, man. You knew they were going to drop the gloves in the first period. We've had some mild rivalries in fishing, and they've blown up online and stuff, but we haven't had like a real healthy, what I would call head-to-head rivalry where you pick a side and it's your guy versus your buddy's guy. Like, you want to talk about like creating allegiance and not wanting to miss anything. Now you've got skin in the game because either your guy wins or that guy wins and they don't like each other. And now I think you've completely opened up the door to a lot more allegiance and a lot more, quote, fandom, guys who have a vested interest in it. Because it's not just, I like that guy and he caught him. Now it's my guy versus your guy.
Yeah, and it's so right now, to me, like you may have your favorite pros, and say it's on like you fish Grand a lot. So if it's on Grand and Edwin's going to be there and Christie's going to be there, you may want to watch them to see what they do because you're a hardcore Grand guy. But I don't care if they let in Joe Smith local and he's catching 38 pounds today. like you're a fan of that catch. Like that's the catch is what you're a fan of probably more than anything. With the whole team concept, and they've tried it, like both Bass and Major League Fishing, going back to the FLW days, have tried the brackets and more head-to-head. Ultimate Match Fishing was a great theater with there, where guys in the same boat going at it.
That was awesome.
But I think the team, that's the one thing that team format gets, and you get a little bit of that rivalry, and you get guys that, like two buddies, but man, they go at it pretty hard. Or you get people that you can tell just like they're actually motivated because they don't particularly like this guy or whatever. So
they don't want to get beat by that guy.
And the other thing about our sport versus golf, you had to be well-rounded as well. But you take a look at, say, a famous basketball player, Dennis Rodman. If he was in pro fishing, like he's like a one-trick pony. He's like a flipping machine, or he's like a ledge guy. Dominates every ledge tournament. He was a defensive rebound guy. He would never make it in pro fishing. With this team format, Dennis Rodman is like one of the number one teammates you want, or a guy who's a knockdown three-point shooter. In baseball, you get a left-handed reliever. The dude, he'll mow down every left-hander. A right-hander will take him yard every time. Or, you get these specialists. So the team format allows some of that, where you have, like, okay, we've got Randall Tharp on our team. We're going to Florida. Guess what? Yeah. Tharp's like, he's gonna go crazy and hammer him. Now we're going to a ledge tournament. Oh, we got Lambert. Like, dude, like, watch this guy go. And allows some of those specialists to do well. Or right now, you have to be just a total generalist. And watching some of those specialists do their thing is kind of adds to some of those games. You love that scat back, or that 5'6", third down back in football who can just run around crazy. If he had to be your full-time running back, not very good. Or the edge rusher who's just like, he couldn't tackle a single guy as a ball carrier. But
brings a specialist back in the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where the team concept goes. I like it. I liked the first one. I've talked a lot. I've promoted the heck out of that to have people go watch that from what MLF did. I think it's real easy to make it kind of hokey, but I also think it's really easy to really generate a lot of interest in it. I think that's a fine line between kind of cheesy and, dude, this is the most badass thing I've ever seen. Like, it's like one or the other, you know what I mean, in my opinion. And we've seen it with what they've done with the TTBC back in the days with the original team concept. But Jeffers used to talk about it back in the day as far as having franchises. That's one of the reasons why I brought up that Kayak Fishing League that I came across, because had you ever heard of that, Tom?
No.
It's like the first one. Like, I don't know. I promise you the inbox will be, hey, all this stuff. I don't know. I think it's in like its second or third year. The kayak world is the Wild West right now. But they've got like a fantasy league. They've got all sorts of stuff on it. But they've got, teams, and they're releasing guys and picking guys up, and home games. And from an outsider who knows nothing about it, I look at it and that interests me, right? Like, I'm looking at that going, okay, is there an Oklahoma team? I want to know if there's an Oklahoma team. And I'm looking at it and I didn't see one. But, they've got the Southwest, the Southeast, the Piedmont, the Northwest, the Atlantic, and the Northeast division, and they literally have standings. They have divisional records, points for, points against, which I guess are inches. Their plus-minus differential, how many inches their team has versus the other, what their win-loss record is. The Coosa Kingfishers, the Southern Slayers, the Florida Copperheads, the Deep South Kraken, the Sunfish State Swamp Donkeys. Right now they're 2-4. They have a 840.25 inches for, 1,066.25 inches against. Like, as a guy who knows nothing about it, like, it's very familiar. Like, I want to follow this now.
Yeah, we're trying to follow that. That's like you talked about. The press release.
Oklahoma Outlaws does have a team apparently.
There you
go. Hold on, Oh yeah, they do. I might have to get an Oklahoma Outlaws on the show to see how this works.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luke. I don't know how I missed that. Oh, they're the very last team on the entire page of the standings.
Got to do a little recruiting for them.
All right, we've been all over the map here, Tom. What else do you want to get in?
I'd just say on that it's the format. So one, you talked about it with Joe, but it's the press release in the NFL, the Major League Baseball and stuff. They have a draft in their off season. They have the hot stove league where you have the free agency. That's where, some of this, we've always kind of hid stuff in professional fishing if there's problems or issues there. And, you have that off-season drama to keep it in the forefront. And the other thing with that is golf kind of went through the same. Tiger Woods really drove the dynamic, got really popular, kind of fell back. The industry as a whole really dropped off. And now you're looking at, I saw an article this week that Topgolf and some other place I'm not even aware of, I guess Putt Zone, but that's not traditional fishing. Those are driving the industry. They're making huge money. Topgolf, that's not traditional golfing. I go with my buddies there. I gave up golf after business, and you're playing who can hit it the farthest, or you play these little games if you can put it in the hole and stuff. It's not traditional, and that's kind of what fishing where they're looking at. And to me, to put a bow on it, that's what I love about fishing. I grew up stream fishing on the farm, wet wading, throwing little floating jerk baits for smallmouth. 14-incher was a monster, 12 was a great fish. I love going out west. I love stream fishing. You can worm and bobber, you can troll, you can deep sea fish, and that's the beauty of fishing. Whether you're a little kid or somebody older, you can do it so many ways. And I think we waste so much time, like us hardcore guys, arguing about how this or that change is destroying the format, and live scope and forward facing sonar is destroying it. And I hate people that sight fish and all this stuff. Like we tear apart our own industry the whole time. It's like, I love all of it. It's fun to catch them on live scope. The first time I video gamed them on ice fishing, I hate ice fishing, but the first time I got to do it, it's cool to do it.
I've done that too, ice fishing. I was like, this is fun. This is not at all what I envisioned.
Yeah, and you can do it if you don't like it. If you don't like forward-facing sonar, go flip trees. And, it's a little different when you're a pro. You have to do what works. But the rest of it, the beauty of it is it's just as fun sometimes to go sit on the dock, take a six-pack, and just catch some catfish or a carp. Like, who cares? It's not a bass. It pulls hard, and sometimes you just like to catch bluegill under the dock, So, yeah, there's a lot of change, but, it's fishing. It's all fun. It's time on the water. And, it's a sport we all grew up loving. Everybody that's from a pro to a weekender, it's the thrill of catching fish. So get back to do whatever floats your boat, literally, and go catch some fish. Have some fun doing it. It's recreation. We can sit at home and watch MSNBC or Fox and argue about that crap all day long, or the whole point of getting on the water is get away from the drama. So,
well stated. Thank you, Tom. I greatly appreciate it. That was fun. I need to definitely get you back on BTL in the near future. Thanks for taking the time. Plus, you've got your leveling skills are very impressive with those pictures in the background. Like that's some danger. If you're off a degree, like that sticks out like a sore thumb. And those are the truest, most 90-degree angle, well placed plaques and stuff in the background that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
the spacing is phenomenal.
That's not me. That's my cohabitant, and she has to do conference calls all the time. So it's the fact that I get to get on here, and in my you have to curate an image in the business world, and you're always on cue. Like us, it's you hold out the fish, and you could be in cutoffs and a torn up shirt and stuff, and we care about the important stuff. It's less about the BS. It's all about how big the fish is. So it's a lot better.
Clay's claiming those things behind you is wallpaper. Those are hung, right?
No, those are actual framed and hung. Yeah,
that's how true they are, like how square they are. That's not wallpaper. Those are perfectly square. Are you an organization freak? I know you said you didn't do that, but are you a guy that has to be organized, or are you a disaster?
It's funny. I'm super anal on some stuff, and other stuff's like just like where you I like to have stuff in a certain area, but I don't have the. I used to take a number of, especially it's the guys who would come over from Japan. Those anglers that had the tackle boxes, like everything in the little cellophane and stuff, everything in spot, like that. That's too much. But yeah, I definitely like to be organized. And I was the one running around with Airy and Upshaw and Scott and stuff, and then later Cox and Belat. I was run around and like cleaning off the countertops and like all upset because the trash wasn't taken out and stuff. So yeah, I'm a little anal on that.
Upshaw's crazy. I've never seen someone order so much stuff online every single tournament. That's always like every day I come back, there's a different box there, and I don't even look who it's for. I just go like put it on his bed.
Yeah, it's that first day of practice. When you look back at the end of the year, you buy that stuff on the way home, or you put it in your box and you unload the boat. I'm kind of in that process now, and you're like I bought this day one of practice and never even used it at a tournament, and that's why you have just a garage full of crap at the end of the season. But yeah, Andrew would do a deep dive on all that.
He still does.
He catches.
He still does. No,
I mean,
yeah. I'm not ripping him. I mean, the guy's got a Toyota championship. He's fishing the Classic as the college angler, and he's got a FLW Tour championship. That's more than a lot of us could say.
Yeah, and it drives me crazy because the rusty one you use in practice, you use the old one, you don't change the hooks. You're trying
Never
not
lose
to
one.
fish. Yeah, and you can't get the thing to let go of it. And they're like, oh, I got to put the good hooks on it, and then you lose them all. So damned if you do, damned if you don't, I guess.
Good stuff. All right, Tom, thank you very much. I know I kept you longer than the half hour. I said I kept you for a full hour, but I thought it was a very entertaining and educational segment.
Yeah, I hope I killed somebody else's drive. That's the we're all sports junkies, and the long roads, the long rides, they can put me on iTunes. They put me on 2 times speed and only have to listen to me half the time. So that's a major bonus.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys listen to BTL on 2X. And
Yeah.
I did it, and I just like giggle when I hear myself talk on 2X.
No, 2X is, so I do a time and a half to 2X. If I listen to somebody, some of the slower speakers 2 times is fine. But the funny part is when you take it back to regular speed with yours, if I want to hear something specifically, like what did they say? Because some of the stuff, there's pretty good nuggets put out there, but it sounds like you have a head injury. It's awesome. So you listen at 2 times speed and then go to normal, and all of a sudden it's I don't know. So it's I can hear head injury, Matt Penrack.
The best, someone did that before Jeffries retired, and I went back and listened to one of the arguments we had on 2X. Sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Just
oh yeah. You can plow through so much stuff. It kills the podcast. The greatest. That is for a pro fisherman. It's got to be like one of the best things you can. You first had Sirius XM radio and all that, but now the podcast, you can listen to good content, and it kills. Man, those drives are, as you know, brutal. But the watching or listening to podcasts on the ride have totally changed the game on that.
Good deal. All right, Tom. Thanks, dude.
My pleasure.
See ya. That was Tom Redington, long time pro circuit pro, also fishes the opens. Smart dude. Really enjoyed that conversation. So take a quick break, come back, set the week up on what's ahead for BTL. BTL on a Monday. We'll be back after this.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute, every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
Welcome back, wrapping things up on a Monday here. Big shout out to MLS Joe Pogger and Tom Redington. Tomorrow, Brian Robinson's on the show, former Minnesota Viking. And I think he's like all in on the fishing thing and the industry and the fishing side. He's like owns a tackle shop now. And I want to get his thoughts on actual professional sports and like players unions and if there's any future for that in fishing, and then talk about his deep dive into the industry and kind of his vision after, retiring and jumping in Opens and Toyota Series, and just kind of see where his future goes. And then still working on Wednesday's show, probably something related to the title or the Elite Series that is currently practicing on Oahe. Based on what I've seen, it's kind of a tough bite. Oh, I did have one more thing. I'm going to throw this out there at the end of the show. There's still some people watching. So I've taken up golf again. I grew up on a golf course, played 36 holes a day forever, and was pretty good, like on the home course. And then, like when I was 14 or 15, my parents grounded me for like 2 weeks from golf, and I said, I'll show them. I'll just quit golfing, so it's not even like a punishment. So then I didn't golf for like 5 years. But then I got back into it. Now I've been away from it again, but I love swinging the club. So I've kind of gotten back into it, and I have this thing where this fall I want to bowl 200 fairly consistently. I want to break 80 and catch a 20-pound bag all in the same day or same weekend. Well, breaking 80 would require some help, most notably some lessons, which is kind of expensive. So I'm just saying, if you are in the Oklahoma area and you happen to be a PGA, a pro, a golf teacher, if you're a scratch golfer and you have any interest in maybe swapping some dink and dunk lessons, drop shot, dead rig, any of that stuff, on the water training, if you're wanting to get better at that, for some golf lessons, I am definitely open for that. I mean, I can get the ball off the ground there. I played yesterday, played 18, 100% by the book, by the rule, shot an 87, but I shot a 40, high 40s on the front, but I was only 3 over on the back. But it's the consistency, and I just need to make sure I'm doing stuff right. And I think a teacher, golf lesson would be the best. So if you know anyone, or if you are interested in that, hit me up on Instagram. So that's all we got on a Monday for BTL. That was a good show. A lot of good discussion there with Tom Redington and Joe. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Brian Robinson. Looking forward to it.